Welcome to Distance Learning Series for Art of Animation course. In one of our previous lectures, I used a cutout puppet to show you how a walking cycle should be made. This week, I will use Adobe Animate to animate a walk cycle. So we are combining computer-aided animation with walk cycles in this example. Without further ado, let's start making this application. For this application, I will need some primitive geometric figures, some geometric shapes to build a body, human body. For head and torso, also arms and legs, I will use simple boxes. For this, I'm selecting rectangle tool, and from the options, I'm making changing values to make the corners round for this rectangle. First, I'm drawing the head. Then I'm changing the color. I will make the parts different with different colors. So next, I'm making the neck with a different color. For the torso, also I draw torso, head, and neck. Now I will begin drawing the arms and legs. Before doing that, I will align these parts vertically. To do that, I'm choosing the parts, and then at the right panel, there's Align tab. In Align tab, I'm clicking the Align Vertically button to fix them, correct them, align them vertically. Next, I will draw the arms. To do that, I will draw one arm, and then I will duplicate these 3 times to make all the parts. For 2 upper arms and 2 lower arms. A copy of the first one. Now it's time to draw the hands. So I'm drawing one hand and then copying. I will change one arm to a different color. Next, I will make the legs. I'm copying the arm structure, and I will use upper arm, lower arm as upper leg and lower leg. And I'm adding the feet. Let's change the color of the legs too. It's possible to choose multiple parts and change color. All the parts are ready. After drawing this, I will convert these graphics to symbols. It's possible to convert graphics to symbols by pressing F8 button after selecting parts. So for each of these parts, I will select one by one individually and then pressing F8, then choosing graphic symbol option, pressing OK afterwards. All parts are converted to graphic symbols. Drawing phase is done. Now it's time to begin rigging, creating an armature, a skeleton for the virtual puppet. I'm selecting the bone tool. I will create bones using this tool. The first bone will be for the torso part. At the bottom of the torso, I'm clicking to a position and connecting it to neck, and then from neck to head. So with these, we will have two bones. Next, I will connect the hip to legs with two bones, and then I will continue connecting legs with two additional bones. After doing the legs, I start doing the arm bones. Two bones for left arm and two bones for right arm. It's possible to make more complex bone structures, more complex armatures, but here I will make the most basic one. It's possible to add additional bones to hands, creating empty symbols without any graphics at the end of the hands, and using these dots, invisible dots, to create a bone at the hand in order to move the hand left and right. But here I will not use that technique. I will just click and rotate the hands if I need. Our armature is ready, but I want to limit some movement here because arms and legs can move freely now, do unnatural poses. So I will limit, constrain some rotations of the joints. To stop rotation or constrain the limits of the rotation to some degrees, it's possible to choose the bones, and then from the right panel I can choose enable and disabling the rotation, or I can choose constraints, give some values, limits to the bones. First, I'm disabling the rotation of the shoulders. After that, I'm disabling the rotation of the bones from hip to start of the legs, these two bones. And after completing the disabling phase of these four bones, now I will limit rotation of some bones, some joints. The arms are moving back and forth, but here the movement is not natural. So to do that, I'm selecting the bone, and from constraint section of the right panel, I'm changing values for left and right offset. For the shoulder movement, I will limit the back movement to 45 degrees and forward movement to 180 degrees by changing the values. For both arms, I will use 45 degrees back and 180 degrees forward moving option by changing the values. So these were for shoulder movement. Next will be the elbow movement, elbow joint. I will select and limit the elbow joint to 0 degrees back because elbow cannot bend backwards, but 135 degrees forward. I'm applying the same for the other bone. I'm not adding anything to hands because there are no bones. I didn't create any bones for the hands. It's possible to create the bones and limit those too, of course, but for this application I use a simple armature. Next, I will limit the movement of the joints of the legs. The leg should bend a bit backwards, but I will limit the value to 45 degrees for backwards movement, but forward movement will be 90 degrees. I'm applying these values to both legs. Next will be the knees. For the knee movement, knee can bend 135 degrees backwards, but cannot bend to forwards, so it should be 0. I'm moving one leg a bit far from the other one in order to change the values and correct the position of the feet. After that, I'm changing the values. Okay, legs are moving naturally now. Head is moving. Now it's time to assemble these far placed parts. They are far from each other. I have to move the parts closer to each other. To do that, I'm pressing Control key from the keyboard. I'm clicking and dragging, dropping the parts. So I'm moving the head and neck together, and also arms and legs to closer to each other. First, the parts of the arms, hand, and I will move the two arms together. Before doing that, I should align the arm parts using the right panel. After selecting the arm parts, I'm choosing Align tab and then aligning vertically with the Align vertical button. Now I'm bringing closer the leg parts, aligning the legs. Leg parts are attached and moving naturally. It's time to assemble arms and legs to torso. I'm moving the arms. One arm will be a bit left and down. The other one will be at the back side of the puppet. The character a bit up and right to create a bit perspective. Now both arms are at the top of the torso. I will change it. I will send one arm to back later. I'm moving the legs now. Similar to arms, I will put one leg a bit up and right to, compared to the other. I assembled the character, but now I have to move some parts backwards. So one arm should be at the back. I will send it back by right clicking it and then choosing arrange option and then choosing send to back. So all three parts of the back arm are at the back now. Now it's time for the leg. I want to send both legs to back. So I will, with doing that, I will hide the connection points of these legs to torso. I'm sending both legs to back by right clicking the leg parts and then choosing arrange and then send to back options. Uh, Here there can be some problems with the levels of these parts. There can be some wrong orders. So if you want to change a part, send it back, a bit forward, you can choose bring forwards or send backwards option instead of send to back or send to front options. So these options create one moves one part one level up or down. It's also possible to use keyboard shortcuts instead of using mouse options. You can press Ctrl, Shift, and up or down keys to send backwards or forwards parts after clicking the part. So with these shortcuts and options, just arrange the correct levels of the parts in the stage. So by moving the parts, I am seeing if there are still some faders. So I will send this arm, dark blue arm to back too. Now it looks okay. Now it's time to apply the walk cycle, but I have to plan which poses I should apply. Our FPS value, frame per second value for the project is 30. The walk cycle will happen in 25 frames, 24 frames for the walk cycle, 1 frame plus frame as 25th frame will be the same with the first frame, as you know from the other lectures. 1, 13, and 25 will be our extremes, contact positions. 7 and 19 will be our breakdown, passing position. And 4, 10, 16, and 22 are in-betweens. So I will apply all these poses to my character, and I will fill the rest with a computer will fill the rest actually. At the end, after completing, I will copy the first frame to 25 position, and yeah, it will be complete afterwards. So the first frame will be when arms and legs are wide. I'm starting with the first frame, making the pose. I'm starting with the arms. Arms will be a bit wide, open. One arm, right arm at the back, left arm at the front. Here you can select, choose and move whole arm by holding the hand, for instance. It's immerse kinematics. It will apply to all the bones, and you can create poses like this, or you can just press Control key on the keyboard and then select a joint or a bone. By that, you can only use one joint to rotate, so limit the rotation to one joints. Both are useful for some cases. Now I will start moving the legs. Legs will be wide. If right arm is at the back, then right leg should be at the front, of course. So I'm moving right leg forward and rotating left leg backward. If we create a line showing the ground, it gets easier to make poses. So I'm creating this line. After creating the line, I'm copying this line to all the frames. I'm inserting here frames from first frame to 25th frame. I'm copying the first frame and pasting it to 25th frame because our first and last frames are the same, exactly the same. To copy and paste frames, you can right click on the timeline a frame and then choose copy and then paste. By copy pasting, I am creating keyframes. So first frame is a keyframe and 25th frame is a keyframe. Both are extremes. Now it's time to make the other extreme. Frame 13. I'm going to frame 13 in the timeline and start making the pose. So in frame 13, legs and arms should be on the opposite sides, just the opposite of the other extremes, other two extremes at first frame and 25th frame. I'm moving arms and legs to the opposite corners, opposite sides. As you see, previous frames are also shown as shades, shadows here on the stage, multiple shadows, shades. I already told you about onion skinning for our cutout puppet examples when we are using a stop motion studio program. So here onion skinning will help us also to see what will happen in the stage. I converted the leg positions, opposite sides. Now it's time to move the arms. With shift key, I'm moving the arm back without moving the other parts. And yeah, as you see, the arms and legs are moving from 1 to 13, then to 13th frame to 25. But of course, this is not natural movement. We need to change and add some more poses for breakdown, break passing positions and in betweens. Now I'm into 7th frame in the timeline. That's this one is the passing position. In the 7th frame, the character will stand in the on top of the right leg, and the left leg should be bended from the knee, standing at the side on the air, and the arms should be straight down a bit. I will move the left leg a bit and then bend from the knee to back. I'm doing this by holding the shift key. The knee is visible a bit at the front of the other leg, but bend it and the feet is on the air. Now I'm moving to 19, frame 19, and doing the opposite of 7th frame here. Now the character is here is standing on the left leg. The weight is on the left leg, but the right leg is bended from the knee on the air. The feet is on the air. If you want to see the continuous loop animation, you can press this button and see the motion between 1 and 24th frame here by choosing the timeline between first frame and the 24th frame. There's a small mistake here, not mistake, but it's a small fix should be made with the feet. The feet should be parallel to the ground when stepping on the top of it. So I will change the frames to fix that. Change the pose in some frames. In the 3rd frame, I will make the foot parallel to the ground. From frame 3 to 13, this foot will be parallel to the ground, standing on the ground. Similar to frame 3, I will apply the same parallel foot to the other leg at the frame 16. From 16 to 25th frame, this foot will stand like that on the ground, parallel to ground. So I should change 25th frame too, making that pose. Here, don't forget to change the first frame too, because 25th frame and the first frame are the same. So again, the foot should be parallel to ground at the first frame too, this blue foot. Let's take this into a loop and watch by clicking the loop button. In walk cycle, body is also moving up and down because in some positions the legs are wide open. The body is at a lower position, and in some poses the character is standing on the feet straight, so the body should be at a higher level. I will move the body according to this principle. At passing positions, the body will be up on the line, aligned to the line we draw at the bottom. In passing contact positions, again, I will make the legs touch the line we draw as a guide. So I'm changing 1/25th frame, the extreme frame at the center, the 13th frame, and also 7 and 19. When we play, the up and down movement of the body is okay. Since we have keyframes also in at 3 and 16, I have to change those frames a bit, the poses there. I should move the body on the line, it's touching the line again in these two frames. After completing this cycle, I can add a background and make the background move to left to create a feeling of emotion in a stage. First, I will delete the guide line I made at the start of the video to show the ground, because I'm actually adding a ground now. I also don't need the frames for this line, guideline in the timeline. I'm deleting those. Now I'm selecting and dropping a background I chose before the application. You can find or draw a background for this application too. This is my background. I should resize it, of course, in order to fit to the scene. So I resized it to a big version, and I moved it to right and top a bit in order to make the puppet stand on the ground level. So from this position, I will start moving the background from right to left, just like moving the character and creating keyframes. I will first convert the background to a symbol. You can press F8 or choose click right click and then choose convert to symbol. I converted the background to a graphic symbol. I'm creating frames for the background from first frame to till 25th frame, and I'm adding a keyframe to the last frame, 25th frame. I'm moving the background at 25th frame to up a bit, correcting the position. Between this first frame and 25th frame for the background, I should create a tween. Tween is the short version of in between. So I will create, computer will create all the in betweens between first and 25th frame automatically. As you see, the background is moving from left to right, but our character is moving very fast compared to the background. So we should change the position of the background a bit in the first and 25th frame to fit the movement of the character. These two movements, separate movements, character movement and background movement should be synchronous. Here my character is only walking 2 steps, so I want to make this character walk from the beginning of the background image till the end. So I need to add more steps, more by copying and pasting the walk cycle a few times. I'm selecting the frames between first frame and 25th frame for my character and copy pasting this in the timeline to create another cycle, another period of this cycle. When I do that, I have to also add more frames for the background to be visible. It should be visible till the end of 50th frame. 2 cycles are not enough, so I will add more of these copies for the character too. I made 4 copies of the walk cycle. Now I have to add more frames for the background too. I'm creating a keyframe at the end of the animation for the background, and I'm moving the background left for this keyframe. I need to make some small adjustments here to synchronize the walk and the movement of the background. Our walk animation is ready. I will make a render now, create a final video. I'm choosing File menu and then Export option. In Export options, I'm choosing Video and Media option. Here in this window, you can choose the file format, target file format, and destination folder. I'm choosing MP4. I'm recording and rendering. And finally, this is our animation at the end. This week we created a walking animation using Adobe Animate. Thank you for joining me.